The following talk was given at the Insight Meditation Center in Redwood City, California. Please visit our website at audiodharma.org.
It's nice to be here, and I hope you're not too out of sorts with the time change. A trick was played on us overnight. I was remembering some time spent living in Japan, and Japan is one of the, I don't know if it's unusual or it's not, but Japan doesn't use daylight savings time. And I was told that after the war, the Americans who were administering Japan imposed daylight savings time. And then when there was the changeover back to the Japanese government, one of the first things they did was get that unnatural change. And the only thing I noticed about not having daylight savings time, which was very nice, or I thought it was very nice, is that, of course, it gets brighter much earlier in the morning. And then as the days are longer and the summer comes, the sun comes up really early, like 4 a.m. or something. And because the climate in Japan is very hot and humid during the day, it's not that pleasant, at least not for me, to be outside. But early in the morning, it's so nice. And nobody's out because it's so early. And it's bright and it's cool. Anyway. So that was what I was reflecting on driving here today. It's very nice to sit with you and sit together. The other thing I was reflecting on while we were sitting is sort of the difference in the feeling of meditating together versus just if we were all sitting, kind of waiting for our flight to, or something. Probably there would be some benefit, maybe a lot of benefit for just sitting quietly, sitting together, and that would be nice. But there's something about the presence, the purposefulness that I could feel in the room, and it was in my own meditation. I would sort of have this feeling of going back and forth between sitting all by myself. So I sort of felt that, like I was totally alone. And then there would be this awareness of the room and everybody, and just kind of going back and forth, which was very sweet. And that's a long way of saying that one of the qualities that separates sitting together in meditation from just sitting on our own is this quality or factor of intention. The intention that we bring to our sitting. We're not just sitting and sort of just, waiting for something. It's infused with some kind of intention, some kind of direction, some kind of purposefulness. And in a way, that's what meditation is. That's all meditation is giving our attention, giving our awareness with a kind of intention, with some kind of direction. So I thought this morning to say a little bit about intention, about this quality of intention, and the role it might play in spiritual practice, in our life. You've probably heard the line from Yogi Berra, if we don't know where we're going, then we might end up somewhere else. So, sometimes in meditation we are instructed to let go of goals, and just to sit and be here and be present. And I think that's a beautiful instruction. It can be a very helpful instruction. But we're still, I think there's a difference between having an intention and having a goal. And maybe one of the differences is that intention is about the present moment, in how we're oriented in the present moment, whereas a goal is about the future. So it's in the world of, the future and ideas. So I recently had the opportunity to spend a little time with a monk, Buddhist monk called Bhikkhu Bodhi. Some of you might know him or heard of him. He's a very well-respected practitioner and translator of the ancient texts. Has been a monk for almost 50 years, and a lot of that time living in Asia and Sri Lanka, and now he's in residence here in the U.S. And so we had a few appointments together, and then we had lunch together in the city, and he wears the robes. And one of the just being with him and spending time with him, and one of the things that really impressed me or really hit home was that how much of the monastic life maybe is a life of intention. It's a life of, and that was sort of expressed symbolically in the robe, and there wasn't anything particular about what he did, or it was nice and sweet in how he was, but it expresses something, to walk in the world with this, intention of not harming, this intention of waking up. So, something about intention. So maybe we can say about meditation practice or Dharma practice, it has a certain kind of direction, and the classical definition of that direction is that our intention maybe is to move in the direction of less self-inflicted stress, less self-inflicted suffering, more ease, more peace, more freedom. So that would be the kind of classical formulation. And then I think there's a way that each of us, hopefully can or, formulate for ourselves, what is our intention? What is our intention to, and of course it operates on all these different levels. So what's my intention to come here today? What's my intention? We can reflect on this in the morning. What do I want today to be about? Of course I'm going to do all the things I'm meant to do, but what's the motivation behind it? And then we can reflect also, what about my life? What is my deepest intention? Suzuki Roshi, the founding teacher from the San Francisco Zen Center, talked about, what is my innermost request? And I think often we're so outward looking, and this is one of the pivots that Buddhist practice encourages, to take some time and reflect on why we do what we do. And then to come into contact with what our deepest wish, our deepest intention might be, and then notice how we're living, and the ways that these two may be in harmony, they may be aligned, and the ways that they may not be so aligned. And I know for myself, when I'm not acting or when I'm not living in alignment with what my deepest values are, there's a pain in that, and so it's helpful to just sense into that and bring it into awareness, bring it into consciousness. So intention, the Pali word for intention is cetana, sometimes translated as volition or directedness of mind. One teacher has called this quality sort of like the chief of staff of the mind. So this is the quality that organizes all the other different mental factors towards a goal, towards an action. The other image I really like for intention is it's the electrical current that keeps something running. So, if you have a blender or something, for the appliance, to keep operating, it needs this current. We pull the plug and everything stops. So we may not be aware of it, but the suggestion here, the idea here, is that just like an electrical current, intention is a quality of mind, is a factor that's happening in each moment. It's happening all the time, and it needs to keep happening for us to. So if you were coming here today or driving here, somewhere in there or out there or somewhere, an intention was operating to keep, in each moment that kept us on the way, kept us coming here. And we know intention matters quite a lot. One of the examples that's often used is if there's a very sharp knife that is being used to, cut into us, it matters quite a bit if that knife is in the hands of a surgeon who's, trying to help us, or, someone who's not trying to help us. The other, just recently reflecting on this, was I had the opportunity to offer some donations recently, and some friends were raising money. The sister of a friend has come down with quite a rare form of cancer. And she has forged a very close bond with her doctor, with her oncologist. And it's such a rare cancer that there's not that much research about it, particularly. So any amount of money that's raised is really actually going into just trying these different things. And so there's a lot of wonderful energy around, raising money to help support this doctor and his research. And this is through Sloan Kettering in New York. And so they had a fundraising event, and there was an opportunity to donate online. And one of the things about when you donate online, your name comes up, or can come up, with your name and then how much you donated. And it's a very interesting. It's actually a brilliant fundraising thing, because what it does is it takes advantage of this this very human phenomena of that most of the things we do, our intentions, our motivations are not just singular, you know. So like in this case, you know, I was very happy to make a donation and sort of wanted to, you know, kind of in my mind, I thought, you know, with this click may, you know, this help, you know, da 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 da. But it did also go into my, you know, like, oh, well, hang on a second. You could kind of scroll up and see, oh, who donated? You know, and so, oh, I know him, I know that, you know, oh, and they're going to know me, you know, and so there was just a little bit of a sort of, you know, I don't know how it affected, you know, what I did, to be honest, but what I appreciated about it is it was taking advantage of the fact that we often do things and there are multiple intentions, multiple motivations. So, so the suggestion is that it's beneficial, it can be beneficial to just take a look at why we do what we do. I remember when social media was getting popular and Facebook was getting popular, and Gil had this suggestion of bringing this mindfulness of intention into how we are online, you know. And it's a very interesting question of why do I share, if you're on Facebook or these things and you share things or post things, why do I share what I share? You know, why do I post what I post? Why do I say what I say when we're in a conversation with somebody? You know, is it about, you know, this very straightforward giving information or conveying a certain feeling? Or is there also something about wanting to be thought of in a certain way? Or, you know, something about self-identity or something about, you know, just to notice, just to look. So intention operates on this moment-to-moment basis, and it operates in these you know, we can look at the larger arc of our life and see how intention and motivation is operating. One of the sobering messages that I take from this, from the fact that if it's true that intention is, we're having an intention in each moment, probably for most of us, most of those intentions we're not aware of them, right? You know, they're operating off the stage, you know, whether you call that the unconscious or, you know, or what. And the good news about Dharma practice, and maybe one of the most significant benefits of mindfulness practice, awareness practice, is that we become aware more and more of the intentions, of the motivations, of the inclinations of the mind that we haven't been aware of, that have been behind the scenes or under the surface. And so again, this is just one of the things to keep in mind or to notice. There was a time when I was on a meditation retreat, and I noticed that my body was rocking, you know, kind of like this. Or at least it felt like it was rocking. There was this perception that the body was just rocking. And it was a little strange. It was, you know, I didn't want it to be happening. I didn't, you know, it was just happening. And I remember talking to the teacher, one of my teachers, about it, and being a little concerned, you know, what's going on and why is this? And the teacher said, well, in a very quiet moment, take a look and notice if there's some intention or there's some permission that you're giving yourself to do this. And I thought, there's no way. I don't want to be doing this. There's no way I'm doing this intentionally. And then, of course, sure enough, at some point in the meditation, there was this very, very subtle, sort of like, it was like just this little inclination to do this, or to have this feeling or something. And I could feel that there was this intention. And if I noticed right where that moment was, one teacher calls it the about to moment. When you're about to do something, if you notice that about to moment, if there's mindfulness there, then we have a choice. Then we have a choice whether to actually act on that or not. And as soon as I could pinpoint that moment, it totally stopped. Because I knew, I found the place of choice. And so this is one of the interesting explorations around intention in a quiet moment or in a sitting, is just to find these moments of choice. And what I realized was that, and it was a little bit unexpected, was that this movement, this sort of rocking movement, there was a sort of pleasure in it. There was a sort of pleasantness in it. And I think that was, in a way, maybe the payoff or the incentive or something, very subtle. Maybe less subtle is the experience that many of us probably have in meditation of the wandering mind. We have an intention to sit here, be present, maybe be with the sensations of the body, the breath, and then, we'll start dreaming about something or thinking about something. And we may think to ourselves, I don't want to be daydreaming. I want to be here. I want to be concentrated and present. But the suggestion here is that for the wandering mind to happen, there's somewhere in there, in a moment that we haven't noticed, that's happened, under the radar of our awareness, we've given permission, or we've given, we've sort of somewhere in us we said, yeah, why not? Let's just go with it, and and then we're off on some memory or some daydream, and so. Without judgment, without any kind, it's just, this is what human minds do. Can we notice the moment of choice? The moment of choice, and it may not be at the very beginning of the wandering mind. It may be at various points in the middle that we notice, I'm thinking about yesterday, tomorrow, something. And we sort of choose to stay with it, or choose to go with it. And then there are moments that we choose to come back. Choose to come back to the breath, come back to the body. So these moments of choice are very significant in Dharma practice and Buddhist practice, because these are the moments where we can wake up. These are the moments where we can be free of the conditioning, of the habits, of the intentions that are operating under the surface. And when there's choice, there's a possibility to choose something else. And the Buddha said, if we didn't have choice, there would be no point to spiritual practice, because it would all just be operating. It would be predetermined, predestined. And then, so one of the great blessings, one of the great benefits of mindfulness practice is increasing the amount of choice we have, increasing these moments of choice. Does that make sense? Or that this is in a little bit of a different, coming at this from a little bit of a different angle. it's a little bit of a new agey angle, but just get a little different flavor of it. So this is called your actions come from your images. Regardless of the circumstances of your life, you are the writer, director, and producer of your mental images. You will always act out those pictures. Your circumstances do not determine what your life will be. They reveal the kinds of images you have chosen up until now. Your mind stores away all of the images that you elect, and you daily carry out the assignment of those thoughts. You cannot have a feeling without first having a thought. Your behavior is based upon your feelings, which are based upon your thoughts. So the thing to work on is not necessarily to change your behavior, but those things inside of our consciousness that we call thoughts. Once our thoughts reflect what we genuinely want to be, the appropriate emotions and actions will flow automatically. Believe it and you will see it. That's from You'll See It When You Believe It by Wayne Dyer, if anyone remembers Wayne. It's, I'm just giving another flavor of this. So the Buddha said, all experience all experience is determined by mind. All experience is shaped by mind, right? Our mind, our intention, not only color and flavor how we experience our life, our inner life, but actually build our experience. And we know that in a very kind of ordinary way, that when we feel stressed and rushed and irritated, someone can yell at us while we're driving, and we may, or someone may do something that cut us off or something, and we may react. We may react out of those difficult feelings. In the same way, if we are spacious, if we are connected to our intention, our deepest intention, and have a lot of ease, a lot of space, there's a lot of space to hold difficult things. And we may not, just yesterday I was driving in the city, and I was just happily, probably in my own world and a little bit out of it, but I was just driving along, and then someone started really yelling at me and screaming, and I just turned and smiled, and anyway, so we can notice these moments of choice and bring more of the intentions that have been unconscious into consciousness. We can also infuse intention, the intention that we want to live our life by, into all the ordinary, practices of our life. One of the teachers here, Inez Friedman, has this wonderful practice, which she sometimes shares, of when doing email, before she clicks send, I think it's before she clicks send, she brings to mind the person who she's sending a message to. And just holds an image of that person, and with warmth, with kindness, with goodwill, and then sends the message, And I know for myself, there have been times when I've done that, and then I've gone, well, hang on a second, I've gone back and changed the message a little bit. Because email, these things, it can be such a flat medium, right? and to bring in a little, just to connect to this human intention can be very helpful. One of the wonderful Buddhist teachers of the 20th century was a monk called Mahagosananda, who was a Cambodian monk. And this is from Mahagosananda. The thought manifests as the word. The word manifests as the deed. The deed develops into the habit. Habit hardens into character. Character gives birth to destiny. So watch your thoughts with care and let them spring from love, born out of respect for all beings. If there's any takeaway from this practice of being with intentions, of noticing our intentions, connecting with our deepest intention, one of the things that I remember and that I continually remind myself is that, as Mahagosananda says, our thoughts really matter. That our thoughts are like, with every thought, we're planting seeds. And this is part of the Buddhist understanding of intention and karma. And the thoughts that we have now are powerful, are really powerful. And so more powerful, they have maybe an unexpected power that we don't often appreciate. They have a power to heal us, and they have a power to hurt us, to harm us, to shape how we experience our life, to shape our character, to shape how we interact with others, just from our thoughts. Just in the same way that a seed, you can't believe it, that a tiny little seed will grow into a huge tree, or a huge, that's why eating seeds is so good, right? Because it has so much nutrition. With every thought, we are planting seeds, and so to spend a little bit of time to think, what is the kind of garden that we want to create, we want to grow. And when we're connected, that when we're in touch with what we really care about, with what we deeply want for ourselves, for our world, everything will flow from that. It's like, it's sort of the natural, I think it's our natural inclination to as Mahagosananda says, let our thoughts, let our intentions come from a place of love, and then, everything else falls into place. So I thank you very much for being here, for your intention. And do we do questions, or do we do? Yeah. We have a few minutes, so if anyone has a question, please feel free. Yeah.
Okay, so this is embarrassing. I was thinking that not all my intentions are quite so lofty. I like other people in the room. I have something to sell. So a lot of time, I'm a writer. I want people to read my books. I want fans. I want readers. I want to be well known. So my intention very often is to make that happen. And it seems to be at odds with the kind of intention that you're talking about. I don't want to hurt anybody in the process. I don't think my books would hurt anybody in the process. So can you speak to that kind of conflict?
Yeah, thank you. Did everybody hear the question? Thank you. It's a great question. And that's one of the things I was sort of vaguely alluding to with this, the experience I just had the other day of making this donation online publicly, and that there were mixed, there was sort of, I could feel that there were sort of mixed motives or a number of things going on. And I think that's sort of how it is. And there's often going to be multiple intentions or multiple, operating. And so I guess from the Dharma point of view, how I would reflect on it is there's nothing wrong with being a successful writer. There's nothing wrong with having a livelihood. The Buddha, to have a livelihood is important. And then the question is, and it's really a personal question, it's like what, how do different intentions and how do different motivations feel? How do they, when I act out of, I'll use myself as an example, as a teacher, and I know that for me, the teaching flows, the relationship with students flows when I'm clearly in touch with the intention of why am I doing this? What is this about? That it's not about me, that it's about offering something, sharing something, being of service, and when people say, after a talk, that was the worst talk I ever heard, it's not like, well, everything's empty and it's just an offering, so I don't care, There's a little bit of like, ouch, and I can kind of trace that back and feel, oh, there's also, in the mix here are other factors operating, and it's nice to be liked, and it's nice to blah 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 blah. So that's sort of a long way of saying this practice is, we're not judging, we're not bringing a judgmental quality. It's just to notice, how the different motivations that are driving us, and I would say there can be a process of continually refining that motivation. So, I admit it can be, especially if you're kind of selling, I don't know, used cars that are like lemons or something, and then maybe the question is the livelihood aligned with what I want to be doing? And maybe for you as a writer, it really is aligned, but the intentions can be more refined and more aligned. And maybe when you get out of the way, and often people find when we get out of our way, things flow actually a lot more. If I'm concerned about, sometimes we teach with other teachers, so this is kind of co-teaching. Usually we teach with other teachers. And then there have been times when I've taught with teachers and I thought, wow, that was a good talk. I thought, oh God, I've got to talk right after that, or whatever. And but actually, now I love it when there's a great talk with somebody else. And that, I just sit there and am inspired. And it's like I'm the student in hearing the talk. And then when I give my talk, it's much better. Because the Dharma is sort of, so as we refine our intention, we can sort of, that separation, one of, just the experience that I notice is that separation between me and others, self and others, us and them, that can fall away. And then it's someone else's success is my success and inspires me. And, and it's really wonderful if you have a professional life and you work to have colleagues and be as part of a community where you support each other. And it's not this kind of zero-sum game. It's like, if you sell more books, that means that's one less book that someone's buying of mine. But it's really like we're trying to pick each other up. And it's an exploration, I think. But I definitely notice for myself this quality of intention can really make a difference, and just to notice where it may be blocking me in some way, and what can be opened up. I don't know. That's Jessica.
Is this on?
Yeah.
Maybe similar to the first question, but from a slightly different angle. Could you speak a little bit about? We've talked about sort of the interconnectedness between ourselves and others, the thoughts that might have been planted in us by, say, our parents or society, maybe the not so useful ones, especially in our continued interactions with the people around us and especially with our family. If they are planting thoughts and ideas in us, how can we meet that?
Yeah, no, thank you. Did everybody hear that? About the one of the things that we start to notice when we bring mindfulness to intentions, mindfulness to thoughts, can be the impersonal nature of thoughts. I mean, we start to notice the impersonal nature of everything. But particularly, it's like, where did this thought come from? Or where did this, who knows? Who knows? And often it's, as you say, it comes from our upbringing, it comes from the culture, it may come from parents or media, or, so the freedom that this practice can bring is to we're noticing them more and more. We're bringing them from the unconscious to the conscious awareness, and in doing so, giving ourselves a choice around them. But one of the other things we can notice is what are the thoughts or what are the intentions that we tend to identify with as, and often it's we don't identify with the beautiful intentions, the lofty, the kind of we sort of take that for granted, or it's like, yeah, that, but the ones that are so-called bad, or that we are ashamed of, or so, that's really me, all the good things, well, that's not me. That's, I can see the selflessness of that. But all the sort of, difficult or, things, yeah, but my guilt is really me. Or my thing is really me. Check it out. Check out that assumption. That, the freedom here is that it's all impersonal. And as someone once said, I don't know if this is true, but it's definitely made me think, the sum of one's life, it's one's life is the sum of the suggestions that we choose to accept. One's life is the sum of the suggestions we choose to accept. And every moment we're offered suggestions that we accept, or we notice, or we change. So in the Dharma, maybe we could change suggestion to intention. Our life is the sum of the intentions that we act on. So, and we didn't put those intentions there in the first place. We didn't, they're there through causes and conditions. And when we act on them, it causes ripples, it causes consequences. That's what's called karma. And so I would say the practice gives us more, awareness of the suggestions, the intentions, the thoughts that, the perceptions that have been there. And then to notice how we relate to those thoughts. Are we identifying with them? Are we are they under the radar because we don't want to see them? There's something painful about them. So noticing the relationship and sort of noticing the consequences that they have when we act on them, and but as much as possible without judgment, without it's personal because it's us, but it's really not personal. It's causes and conditions that have we don't choose. We can choose our thoughts, but we don't. Thoughts just happen. It's just like one teacher calls them secretion. Brain secretions or something. It's like they're just secreting things. And so as much as possible not to identify with them. And then we get one more thing, we get a lot of confidence when we can put this into practice, and we can notice thoughts come up, and we can say, that's not true. I don't have to believe that. That never was true. And we let it go, and the more we do that, the more we are, as it says, we're we're directing our life. We're, according to what matters to us, not, we're here based on what happened in the past. And what happens in the future is determined by what we do now. So that's why intentions are all about the present moment. So if we want to take care of the future, the suggestion here is to bring everything to the present moment and to take care of this moment. And what the seeds we plant now will, just like the seeds that were planted have blossomed into how we are now, how things are now. We have a lot of power to shape the future, but it's not in thinking about the future. It's in taking care of right now, and the seeds we plant right now, and that determines the future. So, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.